Hello. I'm just now beginning our scheduled broadcast, which is Chapter 8, I believe, the Bembine Table of Isis. At least I hope it's Chapter 8. I may have been misnumbering these. Last week I taught Chapter 25, which was on the tarot. I taught that because understanding the tarot is important to understanding the Torah, and also because I was hoping to create a nice introduction into a very difficult topic, which is called the topological metaphor of the medium. Unfortunately, I still haven't been able to make the right presentation for it because it involves some mathematical language that is difficult to share properly. And so I'm still going to do that. It will just come at a later time. There's much going on in terms of learning. I'm just going around and sharing this video so that people can watch if they like to. They may not. We'll see. Okay. There are only a select few people that I expect will ever get anything out of these lessons, but I hope you are one of them. And now I will play to sanctify the space and to give our thanks unto God. And then we will begin. this is the Bembine table, and it is a Egyptian depiction of the universe, or put more accurately, it is a depiction of the house of the gods, which is the image, the primordial image of the universe. It is a representation of something called the topological metaphor of the medium, which is a representation of how infinity, the original infinity, was divided into various houses and into various ways of thinking and understanding, until all of the myriad of creation that we have today existed. So this is an extremely important book of wisdom that is just one table. And there are explanations of this that include Kabbalistic information. They include alchemical information, as above, so below. The various, these are planets. This is the sun. And here we have Mercury, Venus, Mars. And then we have the moon, and we have Jupiter and Saturn. I may have gotten those two reversed. I believe it's Jupiter and Saturn. And then, of course, up here we can see these are the astrological signs. Here we have Pisces, Aquarius, and Scorpio. Where is Scorpio? This. Here we have Aries, Gemini, Taurus. Right, it's really Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, some of these slip my mind, the symbols. Libra, Sagittarius, this must be. So let's see, this is Capricorn. No, this is Capricorn. This is Scorpio. And this is the one just before Libra. So this is Virgo. And Leo, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius. And then you see that this is the Tetragrammaton, Yod, He, Wa, He. And here we see various permutations that have Kabbalistic meanings. This is the black bowl and the white bowl, Apis blanc, Apis noir, or the triple Hecate, the triple bowls. And we'll go into this in detail. But these have particular meanings. So you have summer signs, autumn signs, spring signs, winter signs. And that's what we see here. Okay, well, whatever. Point is, this is what we're dealing with. And that's going over that before this. That's what this is dealing with, but in ancient Egyptian terminology. So these are the 4 seasons, each with their 3 zodiac signs. And these are the black and white bull. See, black and white bull. This is the sun in the solar house with the two guarding units. These are the planets. And we see that Saturn over here is Venus, Mars, and Mercury is Thoth in the middle. And then over here is Jove, Jupiter, and the moon, God, and Saturn. And here's the sun. But we'll get into all of this with Manly P. Hall's explanations, which will shed some light on what all of these things mean, because this is a mystery text. It's very, very condensed information. It's vital to understand that it is condensed information. Let me see. Oh, this is the wrong window. It must have been when I dragged out the thing. There we go. Hopefully, I don't think there was anything weird on there. Yeah. So anyway, let us go and return to our information here. I'm sorry that some of that explanation was eaten up there. I thought that it was correct. But we'll go over it again. So, concerning the theurgic or magic sense in which the Egyptian priests exhibited in the Bembine table of Isis, the philosophy of sacrifice, rites, and ceremonies by a system of occult symbols, Athanasius writes, the early priests believed that a great spiritual power was invoked by correct and unabridged sacrificial ceremonies. If one feature were lacking, the whole was vitiated, says Iamblichus. Hence they were most careful in all details, for they considered it absolutely essential for the entire chain of logical connections to be exact according to ritual. Certainly for no other reason did they prepare and prescribe for future use the manuals, as it were, for conducting the rites. They learned, too, what the first hieromancers possessed, as it were, by a divine fury, devised as a system of symbolism for exhibiting their mysteries. These they placed in this tablet of Isis before the eyes of those admitted to the sanctum sanctorum, in order to teach the nature of the gods and the prescribed forms of sacrifice. Since each of the orders of gods had its own peculiar symbols, gestures, costumes, and ornaments, they thought it necessary to observe those in the whole apparatus of worship, as nothing was more efficacious in drawing the benign attention of the deities and genii. Those are the geniuses. Thus, their temples, remote from the usual haunts of men, contained representations of nearly every form in nature. First, in the pavement, they symbolized the physical economy of the world, using minerals, stones, and other things suitable for ornament, including little streams of water. The wall showed the starry world and the world of the genii. I'm not sure if that was miswritten. In the center was the altar to suggest the emanations of the Supreme Mind from its center. Thus the entire interior constituted a picture of the universe of worlds. The priests, in making sacrifices, wore raiment adorned with figures similar to those attributed to the gods. attributed to the gods. Their bodies were partially bare like those of the deities, and they themselves were divested of all material cares and practices, and practiced the strictest chastity. Their heads were veiled to indicate their charge of earthly things. Their heads and bodies were shaved, for they regarded hair useless excrescence. Upon the head they bore the same insignia as those attributed to the gods. Thus arrayed, they regarded themselves to be transformed into that intelligence with which they constantly desired to be identified. For example, in order to call down to the world the soul and spirit of the universe, they stood before the image shown in the center of our tablet, wearing the same symbols as that figure and its attendants, and offered sacrifices. By these and the accompanying singing of hymns, they believed that they infallibly drew the gods' attention to their prayer. And so they did in regard to other regions of the tablet, believing of necessity the proper ritual properly carried out would evoke the deity desired. That this was the origin of the oracles is apparent. As a touched chord produces a harmony of sound, likewise the adjoining chords respond, though not touched. Similarly, the idea they expressed by their concurrent acts while adoring the god came into accord with basic idea, and by an intellectual union it was returned to them deiformed, and they thus obtained the idea of ideas. Hence, there sprang up in their souls, they thought, the gift of prophecy and divination, and they believed they could foretell future events, impending evils, etc., for as in the Supreme Mind everything is simultaneous and spaceless, the future is therefore present in that mind. And they thought that while the human mind was absorbed in the Supreme by contemplation, by that union they were enabled to know all the future. Nearly all that is represented in our tablet consists of amulets, which by analogy above described would inspire them, under the described conditions, with the virtues of the supreme power, and enable them to receive good and avert evil. They also believed they could in this magical manner effect cures of diseases, that genii could be induced to appear to them during sleep and cure or teach them to cure the sick. In this belief they consulted the gods about all sorts of doubts and difficulties, while adorned with the simulacra of the mystic rite and intently contemplating the divine ideas. And while so enraptured, they believed the god by some sign, nod, or gesture communicated with them, whether asleep or awake, concerning the truth or falsity of the matter in point. See Oedipus Egypticus. The Bembine Table of Isis. A manuscript by Thomas Taylor contains the following remarkable paragraph. Plato was initiated into the greater mysteries at the age of 49. The initiation took place in one of the subterranean halls of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. The Isaic tablet formed the altar, before which the divine Plato stood and received that which was always his, but which the ceremony of the mysteries enkindled and brought from its dormant state. With this ascent, after 3 days in the great hall, he was received by the Hierophant of the pyramid, and the Hierophant was seen only by those who had passed the 3 days, the 3 degrees, the 3 dimensions, and given verbally the highest esoteric teachings, each accompanied with its appropriate symbol. After a further 3 months' sojourn in the halls of the pyramid, the initiate Plato was sent out into the world to do the work of the great order, as Pythagoras and Orpheus had been before him. Before the sacking of Rome in 1527, there is no historical mention of the Mensa Isaica, Tablet of Isis. At that time, the tablet came into the possession of a certain locksmith or ironworker, who sold it at an exorbitant price to Cardinal Bembo, a celebrated antiquary, historiographer of the Republic of Venice, and afterwards librarian of St. Mark's. After his death in 1547, the Isaic tablet was acquired by the House of Mantua, in whose museum it remained until 1630, when troops of Ferdinand II captured the city of Mantua. Several early writers on the subject have assumed that the tablet was demolished by the ignorant soldiery for the silver it contained. The assumption, however, was erroneous. The tablet fell into the hands of Cardinal Pava, who presented it to the Duke of Savoy, who in turn presented it to the King of Sardinia. When the French conquered Italy in 1797, the tablet was carried to Paris. In 1809, Alexandre Lenoir, writing of the Mensa Isaica, said it was on exhibition at the Bibliothèque Nationale. Upon the establishment of peace between the two countries, it was returned to Italy. In his guide to northern Italy, Karl Baedeker describes the Mensa Isaica as being in the center of Gallery 2 in the Museum of Antiquities at Turin. A faithful reproduction of the original tablet was made in 1559 by the celebrated Aeneas Vicus of Parma, and a copy of the engraving was given by the Chancellor of the Duke of Bavaria to the Museum of Hieroglyphics. Athanasius Kircher describes the tablet as 5 palms long and 4 wide. W. Wynne Westcott says it measures 50 by 30 inches. It was made of bronze and decorated with encaustic or smalt enamel and silver inlay. Fosbroek adds, the figures are cut very shallow, and the contour of most of them is encircled by threads of silver. The bases upon which the figures were seated or reclined and left blank in the prints were of silver and are torn away. Those familiar with the fundamental principles of Hermetic philosophy will recognize in the Mensa Isaica the key to Chaldean, Egyptian, and Greek theology. In his Antiquities, the learned Benedictine Father Montfaucon admits his inability to cope with the intricacies of its symbolism. He therefore doubts that the emblems upon the tablet possess any significance worthy of consideration, and ridicules Kircher, declaring him to be more obscure than the tablet itself. Laurentius Pignorius reproduced the tablet in connection with a descriptive essay in 1605, but his timidly advanced explanations demonstrated his ignorance concerning the actual interpretation of the figures. In his Oedipus Egypticus, published in 1654, Kircher attacked the problem with characteristic avidity, being peculiarly qualified for such a task by years of research in matters pertaining to the secret doctrines of antiquity, and with the assistance of a group of eminent scholars, Kircher accomplished much towards an exposition of the mysteries of the tablet. The master secret, however, eluded even him, as Eliphas Levi has shrewdly noted in his History of Magic. The learned Jesuit, writes Levi, divined that it contained the hieroglyphic key to sacred alphabets, though he was unable to develop the explanation. It is divided into 3 equal compartments. Above are the 12 houses of heaven, and below are the corresponding distributions of labor, which are the work periods throughout the year, while in the middle place are 21 sacred signs answering to the letters of the alphabet, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. In the midst of all is a seated figure of the pantomorphic Iynyx, I-Y-N-X. I wonder, Iynyx. Emblem of universal being and corresponding as such to the Hebrew Yod, or to that unique letter from which all the other letters were formed. The Iynyx is encircled by the Ophite triad, answering to the 3 mother letters of the Egyptian and Hebrew alphabets, which are Aleph, Mem, Shin. On the right are the Ibimorphic and Serapean triads. On the left are those of Nephthys and Hecate, representing active and passive, fixed and volatile, fructifying fire, and generating water. Each pair of triads in conjunction with the center produces a septenary, and a septenary is contained in the center. The 3 septenaries furnish the absolute number of the 3 worlds, as well as the complete number of primitive letters, to which a complementary sign is added, like 0 to the 9 numerals. Levi's hint may be construed to mean that the 21 figures in the center section of the table represent the 21 major trumps of the tarot cards, and the zero card, the Fool. If this be so, is not the zero card, cause of so much controversy, the nameless crown of the Supreme Mind, the crown being symbolized by the hidden triad in the upper part of the throne in the center of the table? Might not the first emanation of this Supreme Mind be well symbolized by a juggler or magician, with the symbols of the four lower worlds spread out on a table before him: the rod, the sword, the cup, and the coin? Thus considered, the zero card belongs nowhere among the others, but is in fact the fourth dimensional point from which they all emanated, and consequently is broken up into the 21 cards, letters, which when gathered together produce the zero. This is the letter Aleph. Aleph is the sound before sounds. That is why the first letter of the Torah is Bet, because Aleph comes before all sounds. And so the first letter of the Torah is Bet, and the last letter of the Torah is Lamed. And those together mean Lev, which means the heart. The Torah is encapsulated by the heart, and God is the Aleph and the Tau, the Alpha and the Omega. That is what comes before Bet and what comes after Lamed. If one takes a look at the traditional ordering of the letters in Hebrew, one will find that they have great significance. And they are very, very closely related to Roman lettering that we use today. Only they are reversed and written right to left, and so they have a separate handwritten form. And it's a secret that they are related. Hebrew is, their alphabet is the Aleph Bet, and our alphabet is the Alpha Beta. The Aleph Bet is the alphabet. They are the same thing, and they are from the same source. Greek and Hebrew come from the same source, which is the Proto-Phoenician Canaanite language, which was preserved in Aramaic and by the Assyrians. The Greeks used to write right to left, and now they write left to right like we do. And we did that because holy things are written right to left, but things of this world are supposed to be written left to right. And so we adopted a language of commerce instead of a language of holiness. But that's okay. It's just that they're hidden. They are related.